Alright guys, I'm interrupting this portion of the video to thank our sponsors, and that's coming from Simply Carbon Fiber. Simply Carbon Fiber has been a big sponsor of the channel, and I want to congratulate them for the 8-year anniversary. And for the 8-year anniversary, they're actually having a sale. And that sale is going to include 30% off on your next purchase. You can use this discount code right over here that's going to save you 30% off. And you should take advantage of it because holiday season is coming right around the corner. And if you're trying to pick up some deals and also accessories for yourself, your significant other, maybe yourself again, you can definitely use that discount code to save you 30% off. But it also sent me this over a high quality money clip. I'm not a big fan of forged carbon when it comes to the exterior pieces on the car. When it comes to accessories, I think this looks pretty sharp. I'm a big fan of this. This is their forged carbon money clip, and it holds about 6 cards and actually fit about 8, sometimes maybe 9 IDs, credit cards, and stuff like that. But also on the back, you have an option of holding some cash. And this is good too. It's compact, it stays in your pocket, and it's not too bulky. Obviously there's options for wallets, which they have too on their website, and that's something different. Me personally, I definitely love the money clip because it's so compact, especially when I'm recording. I don't want too many things in my pocket, and this holds all the essentials that I need in a small compact money clip. So I want to thank them for sponsoring this video. Now let's jump back into the video and see how this is going to develop.
So as a consumer like myself, I'm always questionable what level of tint should I get? What level of film should I apply on the car? And I asked that to Martin. I was like, hey Martin, do you remember what I had last on my F80? And he kind of generalized based on what he saw. And you deal with customers that all the time, right? Like, hey, what do you suggest? And then you ask them just certain questions, right?
Yep.
What do you want? How do you want to be able to see seen in the car? Do you want to see like a silhouette?
So generally speaking, the darker films don't perform differently as far as heat rejection than the clear films.
Yeah.
So I start with how dark do you want it, because that's where most people are thinking about their window tint. Oh, I want this darkness. I want 30 or 15 or limo, which is 5 or whatever. Okay, perfect. So we've locked down how dark you want it. Now how well do you want it to perform? So do you want just your standard lifetime warranty, window film? Do you want a ceramic film? Do you want the IR ceramic film, which you'll hear a lot of people, myself included, affectionately call it a super ceramic film? Generally just because that's easier than going down the rabbit hole of what infrared radiation heat rejection is. It's just easier to say super ceramic.
Yeah.
And then from there, what level do you want? Do you want a windshield? Yes, no, okay, perfect, you do. Do you want the windshield to be at the same level of heat rejection as what's on the sides and rear, or would you like the windshield to be a better performing film? So it really just depends on each customer's needs, how they drive the car, how often they're in the car. For example, I've got a client, his daily driver is an F250 panoramic sunroof. So we have XR Plus all the way around that. That tint job was well over $1,000 because we did XR Plus on every stitch of glass. I want to say it was right around $1,400.
Wow.
For that truck's window tint job. On his Maserati, we have regular $200 tint job.
Yeah.
Because the Maserati is a 12-month lease, it's garage kept, and the only time that gentleman drives it is when he takes his wife out to dinner or a show or an event.
Yeah.
And that's the only time he drives it.
But
So
you're able to ask these certain questions to the customer and then kind of pinpoint exactly what they need and what you suggest.
Well, exactly, because most people think when they hear expensive tint jobs, they're like, oh, well, I don't have a Ferrari, so I don't need that. And it's like, well, actually, it's more how you use the car than how much money you paid for the car.
Yeah.
And that customer is a great example because his $200,000 Maserati has a $200 tint job, and his $80,000 F250 has a $1,400 tint job because he's in that all day during the heat.
Yeah.
The Maserati's a date night. It's driven, and he gets a new one every year.
Yeah.
So it's what's important to him.
Yeah, because there's no point of, unless you have buku money like that, to add that really expensive window film onto that lease. That's a year. All right, so Martin, you got a really sharp blade that you're about to start cutting into this film. And you mentioned that you do some hand cutting, right?
Yes.
And the hand cutting is for what reason? Because there is sensors on these cars and newer cars out there where hand cutting is going to be involved, right?
Well, so it's not the sensors that's why I'm kind of. So hand cutting, the reason for it is if you don't have a plotter or maybe the plotter pattern isn't as accurate.
Yeah.
And, Xpel's got the most accurate patterns in the industry. However, there's so many different patterns of sensors to cut around that especially if I'm pre-cutting the film, I'd prefer do a raw windshield and then cut the sensor myself so I know it's dead on. And that's the reason for the hand cutting. Also, I like to hand cut a lot of windshields just because that way I know it's good. But, you know, the big thing with hand cutting is you just got to have a very sharp blade, a fresh blade. You snap one off at every cut.
Yeah.
So that way it's always the sharpest blade. And then what a lot of people don't realize, so you want at least 3 blades out, and you want your blade as close to parallel to the glass as you can. And then that way the angle's not very extreme. When you start going real short and then tilting it up like this where you're driving the point in, that's when you're going to gouge your glass. But if you've got 3-4 blades out and you've got it as, you know, pretty much parallel as possible, you're going to cut through the film and the glass is only going to guide it.
Gotcha.
So the sharper the blade is and the more parallel the blade is, the less you risk, you know, scratching the glass. Yeah. So generally speaking, every cut, break a blade.
Break a blade.
Yep.
All right, Martin, while you're working the front windshield, right? When we talked about the rear windshield, we talked about clarity and also we talked about contaminants, right? You were talking about 99%.
Right.
As you're working that windshield, what does that 99% mean for the viewers watching?
So if I were to take the window of your car, the window that I'm working on, and divide it up into 100 equal size squares, 99% means I'm allowed to have one square completely full of trash and it would still be 99%. So, you know, if there's a speck over, now obviously if there's contamination or anything that's like in view of the driver, obviously you're redoing that. But if there's a speck in the corner or, you know, under where your E-pass is or anything like that, like it's within standard.
Yeah, because I just wanted to make you guys aware of, like, because in reality, this is never going to be 100%, right? There always is going to be slight dust here and there. You're never going to find somebody that's going to do completely because we don't live in a zero air environment, and unless it's very controlled where you live in a, even if it was that, it's not going to happen. So he's explaining to you exactly that small square area, it's an industry standard where it's allowed to be small contaminants. Obviously, he does his best to make sure it's not in the driver's view or the passenger's view. But if it's in the corner and stuff, those things do happen. So when you go to get your window film done, don't freak out. But definitely find somebody that's going to be able to explain that to you, because if they know that, then they do a really good job then.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give you a perfect real world example. Just I feel like a lot of Ken's viewers might also watch Obsessed Garage. So I did Matt Mormon's windshield on his GT3 RS that he sold. And when they pulled the PPF off, him and Billy were noted when they were in this area of the car, and they were like, oh, there's a little bit of contamination down here in this corner. Well, I saw that on video, and I texted Matt right away and said, hey, you know, you guys were talking about that in the video, like, do you want me to fix that? He said, no, not at all. He's like, it's no big deal. He's like, it was a couple spots that's at the very bottom corner. Can't even see it from the driver's seat. The only reason they could see it is because they're right here with the film. They're like, oh, and they both know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So there was like 3 or 4 pieces of dust, like down in this bottom corner, most likely from the soak rope.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then all of a sudden there's contamination. Yeah. But if you weren't versed in that or known that, you would see that on video and be like, well, did he not do a good job? And it's like, no, I did a good job. Yeah. It just
to give you an idea, like I said, no one's going to do it 100%. The main thing is you try to keep it out of the driver's view and the passenger, because at that point it gets kind of annoying. And here's a story, right? Let me put this camera down because this requires both hands. All right, so while he's working on the front windshield, one thing I wanted to bring up. So I need to put the camera down because this is something that I've dealt with. On my previous car, the F80 M3, I had the front windshield done from a shop that we're not going to talk about. And I got the whole side windows done. There was imperfections here and there, but it wasn't in the view of the passengers and also myself. But the major issue was the front windshield. What happened was the front windshield, I guess they overstretched the film. And when I looked out of it, my view, it was like a bunch of haze. You ever look out on concrete and you see that steam rise up on the ground? That's what I saw on my front windshield, and it was all around it. So when the shop I mentioned it to, they said, "Oh, let it dry. It's gonna clear up." I went home, and it wasn't cleared up. That thing still persisted there. So I had them redo it 3 times. And just give you an idea for them to take it off. What they had me do is wait in the sun with the car at their shop, and it takes about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, because we did this in the winter, for them to remove it with all the glue not stuck onto the window. So for me, that took a lot of time out of my day to do it 3 times. Even on the 3rd time, they still couldn't do it right. So that's why I was like so fed up, and I saw Martin was actually on Obsessed Garage's channel, and he was doing the window film. I'm like, if Matt Mormon's gonna use this guy, he's trustworthy then. So luckily, I was able to schedule with him, and we got that front windshield done, and it came out amazing. So again, which is another reason why I mentioned again, which is why I'm driving 3 hours to come up here to get it done. All right, so Martin just finished. He did a little overview, making sure everything was good, because I do have a 3-hour drive back, so he doesn't want to make sure that I drive there, I'm unhappy with it, and have to drive back.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, this whole video is about this film itself, and also the detail that he takes on making sure his craft is solid for myself and also for his customers. Today we use Xpel, right?
Yep.
Film, and the specific film you were mentioning earlier, right? That I'm gonna feel the difference because I've never had this film except for my front windshield, my F80. But you explained a lot better. I'll let you go to it.
So we used XR Plus, which is an IR ceramic film. So it's blocking heat because it's ceramic, also with infrared radiation ray reduction. So that's why it blocks so much heat. Basically, and I try to talk about things in an analogy purpose that will translate and make sense instead of talking about the statistics. Because when you talk about statistics, you can get lost in what that sounds like and what it feels like. So more or less, when the whole car is tinted like this with XR Plus, it's going to feel like the car was parked in the shade, not in the sun. So the ambient temperature in Florida, I mean, it's September and it's well into the 90s
hot
right now. So it'll feel like it was parked in the shade, not out in the sun. And then it'll cool down considerably faster because while your AC is getting going, the film is still rejecting all that heat. Now, once the car gets to the temperature that you want, you'll realize that you don't have to wail on your air conditioner. You can, personally, I drive a black pickup truck, and I drive around with the air conditioner at 72, split between chest and feet. And that's in a black truck in Florida. Otherwise, it's too cold. So it'll feel like it's parked in the shade. It'll cool down light years faster. And then once it cools down, you don't have to wail on the air conditioner because the film is still rejecting all that heat. Generally speaking, what I typically tell my clients, where you really feel the nail in the coffin is when you get used to it, because it becomes your normal.
Yeah.
And you forget how good it's doing until you go ride in someone else's car that doesn't have it. And then the whole time you're in their car, especially if you like a beach trip where maybe you got a friend that's got a Jeep Wrangler and you're like, listen, we're not going to take the G80 to the beach.
Absolutely not.
We're going to take your Jeep. And you'll be fine on the way there because you might have the doors off, windows down, because you're on the way to the beach.
While, yeah.
But when you're on the way home and there's no heat reduction film, you're just going to be in that Jeep just getting smoked the whole way home.
Got the cheap film on.
Yeah. So that's where the nail in the coffin really hits you. Is it's almost more impressive in the negative of it than in the addition of it. Because in the addition of it, you'll love it on the way home.
Absolutely.
But then as it becomes your normal, you forget how well it's working.
And you never want to go back.
Until you have an experience like your windshield broke and you got it replaced, but I'm a week out. And so for that week, you're driving around. And then in the absence of it, you're like, oh.
And this is the newest film they have that's in the market, right? Because every time they update it, you obviously would.
Yeah, so this is currently their top end, top of the line. I don't see window films getting
that.
I mean, I'm sure at some point there'll be something that performs better.
Yeah.
But you just like you can never have 100% clear glass.
Correct.
You're never going to put something on it that's going to reduce 100% of the heat or the energy. So could it be better? Sure, because everything could always be better.
Yeah.
How much better? Man, I don't know. But I know Xpel spends a lot of money on research and development. And so, as things come out, I'm gonna. Oh yeah, if they come out with a new product, I'll absolutely offer it. But I mean, I offer a color stable, which is just your standard lifetime warranty film. I have a ceramic, and then I have the super ceramic or the high end.
And this is, what's the warranty on these film anyway?
So Xpel is industry leading on that. So it's lifetime transferable.
Oh, okay.
Means it goes with the car.
Okay.
Most films that are lifetime warranty, it's going to be the lifetime that you have the car.
That's true.
This goes with it.
Yeah.
So that's how well. There's a couple of series of other films that will offer that.
Okay.
Like, but as far as like across the board, everything by this manufacturer is that.
Yeah.
Xpel's the only one.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I've never had a problem with it. I mean, it's a great film, super clear, you know, ton of heat rejection. The look of it from the outside, it's a little bit colder of a color temperature.
Okay.
So it's more of a true black on the blue side versus a charcoal on the greenish brownish side, like some of the other films on the market. So
this is a true black.
Yeah, it's got a very cold, true black aesthetic to it instead of some of the charcoals or browny or greeny looking films that are some other manufacturers.
Okay. Well, like again, if you guys have any questions, right, list it down below in the comments. And I'm gonna list his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel where he does a lot of his talks about you know, window tinting. And it's a lot of education. If you guys are wanting to get into the business, definitely subscribe to his channel. I'll leave his information down below. Martin is servicing your local area in the Central Florida area. How far would you go?
Well, currently, just due to fuel prices and tolls and this, I charge $1 a mile currently, and that'll fluctuate with fuel prices.
Yeah.
So $1 a mile, you know, so yes.
And here's the thing too. I'm not the furthest person that drove to get his services. He was telling us earlier, there's a guy that drove from Maryland, right, with his family to get this done. To
be fair, as much as I'd like to pat myself on the back that hard, I don't want to blow out my shoulder. So he was going to be in the area anyway, but he waited to have his car tinted till he was in town and chose to drive instead of fly so that I could do it. So he didn't make a special trip from Maryland.
He kind of did, come on.
But he drove, didn't fly, and waited like a month or two to not get it tinted until he brought it here to me. And that's purely based off my buddy Matt over at Obsessed Garage. That's how
I found him.
That's off of his reach. That's not from my own doing. But yeah, my channel has a lot of informational on where I'm at with the business, what I'm doing. My channel also has a couple of flex videos. Like I've got one with a 720S McLaren. That's blatantly just to show off that someone let me do a 720S McLaren. If you're interested in window tinting and you want to learn more about the business side of it, the better channel for that's going to be my buddy Patrick with Window Tinting Business, who's also the gentleman that makes the dry shrink prep that I was using. His channel is more geared towards people that want to learn the industry. Tips, tricks, tutorials. His channel is more geared towards that. My channel is more geared towards entertainment, or these are some of the cars that I want to highlight, or I'll do tint and talks to completely bite the style of my buddy Matt. I'll do tint and talks, which are more of a state of the union. So I have some state of the union. I have some flex videos. None of it's very get into the industry. That's going to be my buddy's channel.
Well, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I know you guys are probably going to enjoy the cinematics and also the educational portion of it. If you guys, like I said, have any questions, let me know down below. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.